welcome back to StabilityWOD Day 20. I promise I won't keep counting, but I'm very excited to get to 30, and then maybe I can relax a little bit. So we're coming back to talk about the feet again today and how that fits into functional movement. Now, before we do that, I wanted to just return to the idea of intention and activation. Now, for a lot of us that work out in a CrossFit gym, we're wearing shoes. The coaches are working their hardest to help us move well, but there are times when the coaches can't see everything and they can't see what's going on inside your shoes specifically. So it's really important that the athletes take responsibility for what their feet are doing during movement. And this is another example of the more you practice it, the better you get at it, the more automatic it becomes. Now, I'm giving you responsibility for some of these things because when you head out of the gym to run, you also want to know that you have the awareness in your feet that they know how to behave when they're landing, absorbing impact, and then you're taking off to propel to the next foot. Some of the work of learning how to feel where your feet are in space, where neutral is, where pronated, where supinated is because that will carry over into everything else you do, whether you're a distance runner, cyclist, weightlifter, tennis player, you name it. This is all about awareness, getting muscles fired up, and giving you the responsibility for making all that happen. Once you learn how to manage and get in touch with your foot position during your two-legged squat, especially if you're a runner, you want to learn to integrate that into a one-legged squat because, of course, running is just a series of jumps from one leg to the next. So having the ability to control your foot on one leg is going to be tomorrow's lesson. Let's get started with the two-legged squat. So one of the concepts I talk about often with many different types of athletes is how they can learn to maintain a neutral arch position when they're at the bottom of a squat. And that's because a squat carries over to so many different types of sports. So this is a nice place to start to learn what our feet are doing when we're squatting. Now, when I'm at the bottom, I have my feet already set in a slightly supinated position, which is my neutral. It's the point at which I can keep my big toe and my base of my metatarsal, which is where the bunion typically is, if you have a bunion, and I can keep that planted on the ground. I can have my arch so it has a nice contour. My feet are relatively straight and I can feel the muscles in my feet working. As I come up and down, my foot position doesn't change. It stays nice and neutral the whole time. Now you'll see a lot of people when they first start to squat, they turn out and their feet roll in. You can see my knees are now disconnected from my feet. They're doing different things, which puts torque on my knees. But you can also see that my feet are totally unlocked, loose, pronated, and I'm rolled towards the inside of my foot, which makes me very unstable. The alternative to that is the roll to the outside of the foot, which helps my knees maybe stay in a better position, but now I've lost my tripod, which is my little toe, big toe, and heel. And because I've lost my tripod and I'm on the outside of my foot, I'm slightly less stable and I have less power to drive up off of my feet from the bottom of that squat. The little toe is very small compared to the big toe. I mentioned yesterday that the big toe is the most important toe. It's a massive toe, and so you want it doing a lot of the weight bearing, whether you're running or squatting or really doing anything else. So the importance of having your arch in a neutral position includes the ability to have the big toe on the ground. Notice I'm also not curling my toes. If I was in my shoes, it would be hard to see, but I'm not curling my toes in order to keep my arches high. I'm actually relaxing them. And like yesterday, I have this sort of slightly curved, slightly turned in, slightly shorter shape to my foot. And I can feel the muscles in my arch and my lower leg working hard to keep me in that position. This takes a ton of intention, it takes a good amount of strength, and you have to get those muscles activated in order to learn to pattern the squat in this way. Now there are a couple of reasons that when you squat, your feet will want to toe out and your arches will want to collapse in. For a lot of people, that's because they have relatively stiff ankles. For others, it's because they actually don't have the foot strength and awareness to be able to stay in that position. If you're the latter type of person, you're probably going to find that if you have the ankle mobility, you can learn how to do this relatively well. If you have really stiff ankles, you're going to find this much more difficult because toeing out and pronating is your strategy for getting around that ankle stiffness. So in a couple days, I'm going to talk about mobility in the context of how we can use that new mobility to then find a more stable position using muscle control. Thanks for watching today. Please take a second to subscribe. I have a lot more content to share around feet as it pertains to all kinds of different sports, from running to CrossFit, and I hope you'll tune in tomorrow. Really appreciate you watching today. See you then. Make sure to tune in this week to find out why scrunching a towel with your toes and picking up marbles may not be the greatest way to strengthen your feet after all.